Get started. I'm going live on YouTube right now. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. All right. Good evening. I would like to welcome everyone to the Westwood community meeting tonight, April 28th. In today's meeting, we will talk about what our future plans are for Westwood. Westwood has a special affinity to me as a former Westwood graduate who went to Westwood. It is a special place for me in my heart. In tonight's discussion, we'll just discuss the preliminary plans on what's going to happen to Westwood as we move forward in this new facilities plan for Warrensville Heights community. For those that don't know, the Warrensville Heights community, in 2018, we passed a bond levy. The bond levy has resulted in the district getting all new schools throughout the district. Currently, we are in the process of beginning the construction of a new middle high school, and we've already completed Warrensville Heights Elementary School. Warrensville Heights Elementary School is a pre-K to 5th grade. It opened November 22nd, 2020. That's when our teachers all arrived to the building this year. Our scholars first stepped into our new building on January 25th, 2021, which has been a great experience for our students. This building replaced our historical elementary schools of Eastwood, Westwood, and John Dewey. And for those who grew up in this community, those who went to school here, each school has an affinity for whoever went to each school. Everyone, you got John Dewey people who love John Dewey, you got Westwood people who love Westwood, and you got Eastwood people who love Eastwood. And we all came together at Randallwood. So now, Randallwood, the new Warrensville Heights Elementary School, which is located where Randallwood once sat, is the place where we all come together now. The new building is 132,000 square feet. It is a state-of-the-art facility. And the elementary school was not funded by the bond issue, but it was funded with proceeds from new development in the community. So that is the Richmond Road development, that is the Amazon development, that is all new proceeds that we got to receive from the work of our elders who put some things in place. We allocated that money to build this new state-of-the-art elementary school. If you ride down Clarkville Parkway, it's the front of the building, beautiful entrance for our great scholars. Inside, you see these are called our extended learning areas. These are areas, if anyone remember Randallwood, these are kind of like the pods, but they're not like the pods. They are like the pods, but they're not like the pods. But what we have is grade level areas, and each grade level area has a common learning area or extended learning area. In these areas, we have tables and chairs where students can get extra help. We have places where multiple classes can come together. The one on the left is our 4th and 5th grade extended learning area. The one on the right is our kindergarten extended learning area, where we have the cubbies and so forth outside. Around these extended learning areas are 6 classrooms, 6 state-of-the-art classrooms with the latest technology. As you can see in these pictures, you'll see that each classroom is equipped with an 85-inch interactive monitor. The latest furniture, we have furniture that's on wheels that allow us to be flexible, allow our teachers to configure classrooms in any way, especially now with COVID. We have to keep our students 6 feet apart, and our furniture allows us to do that. Every room in our building has a window. So every classroom has a window in it. The teachers have microphones where they can speak across the speaker across the room. And in our pre-K and kindergarten classrooms, they all have bathrooms within it. Our gymnasium is a regulation gym with 2 full courts. On a half court, it is equipped to do middle and high school volleyball. It is, and during the school day, it has a divider in the middle where we're able to have 2 gym classes in at the same time. The extended learning area on the bottom, again, another example of how we have these great spaces for kids to learn. And then this is our playground in the back, in the middle, great opportunity for students. And then just a picture of our office, which doesn't look like that at this time because we've made it COVID proof. We have the protective covering for the people there to come in. So it doesn't look like that at this time, but it's a great space. Oops. Okay, at this time, our dilemma, and this is the dilemma of the district, is that we have these 3 buildings that are empty. We have Westwood is the one is we do have someone that's written the part of the building, or is written the building, the Tabernacle of Faith, which we are very thankful for, who maintained the building over a period of time, which is greatly appreciative. We made some investments in the building, but the district is in a dilemma. At this time, I have Jason Dotson, our board attorney, go through what the issues are and how we plan to get through them.
Thank you, Superintendent. And so looking at this slide, just a couple high-level things before we get into a couple of the legal items that the board must keep in mind. The board has conducted appraisals for all 3 of the elementary schools, bless you, as well as the administration building. And the cost to demolish, and the value of those 3 elementary schools, plus the administration building, are not much more than what the cost would be to demolish all 3 of the elementary school buildings. So you see the $1.3 million here is really what the cost would be if we took all 3 buildings down. Now, the good news is kind of on 2 fronts here. One, that $1.3 million was budgeted as part of the school reconstruction budget. So it's not as though we're in a situation where we have to find the money. And the other benefit is that 32% of the cost of demolishing those schools, as long as they are demolished by the end of 2023, is going to be able to be contributed by the state of Ohio. However, because we do know that the cost of demolishing those buildings is relatively close to the value of the buildings, we do need to be somewhat careful in terms of how we proceed. So Mr. Jolly, if you could move to the next page, please. Perfect. So the Ohio Revised Code sets out a pretty specific process that the board must follow in order to dispose of property. So the first kind of general rule to keep in mind is that if real property is not used by the district at all for the period of 1 year, then the district has to move forward and sell that property. Now, the good news is using that property can mean educational, it can mean administrative, it can mean other purposes, including storage as well. So that's kind of the baseline rule. In addition to that, then, one of the things to remember is kind of the normal path that the revised code sets up when a school district has to dispose of property. And that path essentially requires the district to first offer the property to what we would call charter schools. And if none of those charter schools take the property from the district, then at that point in time, the district has to put it up for auction. Only in the event that it doesn't sell at a public auction, then the district has the ability to sell the property at a private sale, or make a deal with a developer, however that may look. Now, there are 2 exceptions to that general path of charter school auction private sale. The first exception to that is that the school district and the city are able to swap property that is mutually beneficial for each of the entities, which does not mean it has to be of equal value. It just means that each entity gets a benefit from the swap. And if you do that swap, then you don't have to follow any part of the process at all. You don't have to offer it to charter schools. go to the public auction or anything. You really can do that swap before any of those other steps. The other exception to that general rule is that the district may sell the property to a political subdivision without doing the auction. However, before it sells it to that other political subdivision, whether it be the city, the county, a port authority, it does still need to go through the charter school process. So, right, wrong, or indifferent, I think people have different thoughts about it. I know where mine is. I believe I know where Superintendent Jolly's is. The revised code has been written in a way that enables charter schools to be able to essentially pick up former public school property so that they don't have to have the same capital expense that a public school district would have if it wanted to build a school. So part of what we need to keep in mind here is, given the rules that have been put in place, and quite frankly, given the role that the charter schools have played historically in Warrensville Heights of reducing enrollment, really putting a pressure on the district, we need to make sure that we're not doing anything to necessarily help those charter schools get a better foothold within the district, because I think the district has made a lot of strides to counteract maybe what was going on 15, 20 years ago. So Superintendent, if you could go to the next slide, please. I think I might have actually said the next slide anyways. Yeah, and so again, really what we want to look at here is, what can we do as we're disposing of property to not necessarily just be in a situation where we automatically turn it over to charter schools. We want to really make sure that we maximize the benefits for the district, but at the same time, figure out how we're able to provide value to the community as a whole as well, without necessarily just losing the property. So there's a little bit of a strategic element in what we're trying to do here.
And Jason, can I add that? So in the essence of this is that the county, or not the county, the state is contributing money for the demolition of these properties. In the past, and I'll give you an example, when Randallwood was shut down, even Westwood was shut down, the district did not have a long-term plan in order to sustain those buildings, which resulted in Randallwood not even being habitable for us to go back to when we did need we needed some space. So in looking forward, the school board does not intend on holding on to properties that we're not using. Hence, there has to be that we're not using because of the cost to maintain them. Roofs, the structure, and all those other items are very significant to maintain. With the age of the buildings, things are going to continue to break. When we did this exercise to determine to build new schools, the state commissioned an architectural firm to come into the buildings to determine if the buildings could be renovated, or could the buildings be, or should they be rebuilt. If the cost to renovate them exceeded 70%, then they recommended to build a new building. When they went through our district, every last building, the cost to renovate it and get it to standard exceeded 70%. Hence, we ended up with Warrensville Heights Elementary School, and then we ended up with the new Warrensville Heights High School and Middle School. So thinking long term, the situation that we're facing now is that we have to make decisions about these properties. We can't leave them vacant. And then also long term, the district is not willing to maintain properties that we're not using, because then all right, Jason, I wanted to just explain that.
Sure.
All right, trying to move to the next slide.
Perfect.
Okay.
All right. So a couple of things again to keep in mind, and talked about this a little bit earlier. We want to make sure that whatever we do in disposing of the properties, reduce the likelihood that a charter school is ultimately going to end up with the property and compete against the public school district. The second thing, as I mentioned earlier, we got to make sure, we have to balance essentially, what the values of the property are versus what the cost to demolish each one of the properties would be for the district. And then the other thing is, hey, as we work with the city, are there creative solutions that either can avoid that entire process I went through earlier altogether through a swap that makes sense? Or is there, even, if we have to go through and at least offer it to the charter schools up front, do we ultimately try to avoid the public auction by working a deal with the city where we would sell the property to the city? The city may have a developer, some other entity on the back end that it would then be able to turn around and sell the property to as well. So, there's a little bit of strategy in how we approach this. For example, one of the things would be that as we look at all of the circumstances, if we have a piece of property that has a school building on it and we go into the process of selling it, again, that's likely to be attractive to a charter school. If we have that same piece of property and decide we're going to tear the school down, the building on it down first, and use the school money to tear that building down, now all we have is a piece of land. And that land isn't necessarily going to be valuable to a charter school, but it may be valuable to somebody else that the city would be working with in order to bring further residential or commercial development into the city. And so those are the type of decisions we need to make about, how do we do what's best for the school district, but also how do we keep in mind what's best for the community as a whole. So Mr. Jolly, if you wouldn't mind going to the next slide.
And I concur doing what's best for the community. So I think that in the next few months, we'll be having some we'll be having conversations on what is best for the community with the city and other stakeholders to see what is the best use for the whole community. All right, Jason.
Yep. And so with the Westwood property in particular, excuse me, the appraised value came in for the building at $430,000. The proposed use going forward into next school year would be to use it for the Warrensville Virtual Academy. So there really is not a reason to tear the building down until the summer of next year. And we have had some discussions with the city in terms of whether this would be a property that the city would be interested in terms of figuring out a good redevelopment for the property. And so using those kind of circumstances that we're dealing with here, what we know is that there's really no immediate need to do anything with the property at this point in time. We know we have until summer of next year to really decide what happens next with the property. We have time to work with the city, some other, whatever the other community stakeholders that may have an interest may be, and figure out the future for the property. Now, again, I would just keep in mind that eventually 2023 is looming out there. By the end of 2023, at the absolute latest, we do need to tear the building down if we're going to do that, because that is when the state contribution would end at the end of 2023. But long story short, with this building, we have a little bit of flexibility to figure out what we need to do, whether tearing it down makes the most amount of sense in order to essentially block out the charter schools, and whether there is something we can work out with the city for future development of the site. And then the only other comment I would note here is, I know that the church is located within the school. There's not any sort of an immediate need in order to for the church to vacate this year or this summer or anything like that, because the school would continue to be used through next summer. But at some point, those discussions are going to need to occur, that if that building isn't there, what comes next? So
right, and those discussions will continue throughout the year for what happens next. So that all stakeholders will be at the table to discuss what happens next to Westwood. So with that, are there any questions at this time from anybody?
Yes, Mr. Jolly,
Yes, sir.
I think you guys really get it as far as a connection that the community has to your neighborhood schools. And my question would be, are you going to have an open house for Westwood, John Dewey, or Eastwood if and when demolition occurs?
So, yes, sir. So actually, we're going to use John Dewey also next year. So John Dewey will be used as the middle school. Let me check. Yeah, John Dewey will be used as the middle school next year. And then Westwood will continue to be used and open. And then we will do something this summer for Eastwood, because Eastwood is scheduled to be demolished on this late summer or fall. So we will have an event for Eastwood. We are having an event for the middle school on Memorial Day weekend, where everyone get an opportunity to walk through and say their last goodbyes. And we'll do the same for Eastwood also.
Great. I cannot wait till next month for that walkthrough at the junior high. It's going to bring back a lot of memories, sir, and I'm so happy you're doing it.
Yes, sir. I appreciate that, and we look forward to seeing you. Are there any other questions?
Yes, Mr. Jolly.
Yes, ma'am.
This is Ms. Hauser, and I was wondering, when you take these buildings down and should you sell or whatever, does that mean that when you sell all of the property, meaning the property around the school, or just the property of which the school is setting? Because I keep thinking, we're losing practice fields. You'd have already said that John Dewey was going to be where the baseball team was going to be able to, continue their season, and possibly. And then we're putting in, as if I remember correctly, we're putting in probably AstroTurf for the high school football field, but they still require some place to practice, because you're not going to practice on that AstroTurf every day. So is there a plan for that practice field?
Yeah, so part of the design of the new athletic fields at where the current middle school is at, because for those that don't know, where the current middle school is at will become the baseball field, and then there will be a practice football field there. Some kind of way they're configuring a practice field there at that site. We also, in discussions with the board, all three properties might not go. The board and I probably will recommend that we hold on to one property, and it will become like a soccer field, baseball field, and so forth.
Okay.
And right now that property is looking more like John Dewey at this time, because we're holding on to John Dewey. We're investing money in John Dewey, putting the new baseball fields there. So the board will be discussing that vision moving forward on which and then also a concern moving forward is that as the population grows in the city, if Eastwood becomes houses and we get more students, and then some of those charter students come back, there will be a need for another school in Warrensville. And where would it go? And that is one of the reasons why we need to maintain a property, just in case our enrollment sparks to 3,000 students and we need somewhere to build a new building. So I know the board, those discussions will be coming with the board, but those are some of the things that we have to think about moving forward. So I think, what I know is in the plans for the athletic fields and stadium at the new high school, there is some consideration and thoughts about a practice field for football, but also John Dewey will be used in that capacity too.
Thank you.
Mr. Jolly?
Yes, sir.
Reverend Eppinger.
Yes, sir.
We've been at Westwood building for about 10 years. When we came to the building was boarded up, and a lot of things were completely just dilapidated at that time. We completely remodeled the building and brought the building back up to code so that we could go and get it approved to occupy, first as the Family Life Center and then the church. 3 years ago when the school moved in, we were not able to have any of our programs because you needed to occupy every room in the building. And we lost all of our sustainable programs that maintained the financing to completely hold on to the building in terms of paying all the bills, upkeep, and so forth. I just understood that there's a virtual academy that's going to start. And with that, I want to know, will you be occupying the majority of the rooms again? And I'm saying that because of the COVID, we were not able to interact with people. So our programs was dealing with family life programs and a multitude of other things that we were doing in the community as a faith-based organization and as a family life center. Will your virtual academy occupy the majority of the rooms again?
No. So the virtual academy, it won't be any students located at the building at all. We'll need 5 classrooms. That's it. So 5 classrooms, and teachers will just be on computers in those classrooms.
Oh, that's great.
They'll just be on computers. We just need 5 classrooms. That's it. And we could discuss that and talk to you about where those 5 classrooms are. And those teachers they'll be teaching virtually on the computer. Part of the reason we have to do something in it, see, there's clocks ticking and all kind of things with this building, with this situation. If we don't occupy that building within a year, then the clocks ticks where then we have to auction the building. We have to put it up for auction with the charter school. So we want to keep the building functioning with the school so that there's no clock ticking. We got more time to, all discuss the future. You know what I'm saying? So we're giving us more time. So we'll just have our virtual five rooms with the teachers, just with their computers. No students in there. No students will attend school there. No, there won't be any students attending school at that building at all.
Okay. Thank you. And I look forward to working with you in the future. Okay.
And I do want to say Pastor Everett has been a great partner with the district over the last, since I've been here 6 years. And we communicate. I try to communicate everything I can to him so he's aware of where things are. Because they've been a great partner in the city. They've been a great partner to the school district. And the things he shared earlier of keeping the building functioning, they did a great job with that. And I want to help with that. Are there any other questions? Any other questions from anybody?
Just a quick one about the next month's open house. Is it better to go on Friday or Saturday if, I want to go in there and look in the classrooms and take pictures? Is there any day that's better than the other?
I would probably say Friday would be better because, people, everybody not off work and, I think the crowd will be a lot lighter on Friday. I think Saturday is going to be a lot more people coming on Saturday. But it should be, in the format of it, it's just going to be an open house. We're going to open the doors. And our thoughts is everybody know where to go. They've been, they attended the school. So just let everybody have free reign, go around the building and see and explore.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Jolly.
Are there any other questions or concerns at this time? I understand that, this is a new day in Warrensville. I mean, it's been coming a long time. We're going to be respectful and thoughtful in everything that we do. Our school board is dedicated and committed to know what's best for the community and what's best for the community stakeholders. That's why we're having these meetings, because we want everyone to know what's going on. We're going to be transparent and let people know what's happening. But the school board is committed. We couldn't get to this point without our citizens and our partners and our stakeholders. And we want to continue to build great relationships and do what's best for everybody. But ultimately, we have some constraints that we under and that we have to work through. And this community has always shown that they can work together and do what's right. We are thankful for these great buildings that we've had, that we've been blessed with, that got us all, like most of us on here, a lot of us on here, graduates of Warrensville, been through the district, and those buildings served us well. They served us well. And we want to give them due. Their due as they leave, and as we transfer to a new day and a new day in the city. So with that, I do appreciate everybody who's been on the call and understand that we will and continue to do what's best for the community. So are there any other questions? Any other questions? If there isn't any, we appreciate everybody. We look forward to seeing you at the ROAR event. That's on May 28th. In May 29th. We also having a 3-on-3 tournament at the new basketball courts that are Randallwood. 4 full courts, blue and gold, state-of-the-art lights. Really, really, really a testimony to the community and the history here that basketball has had in our community. And we look forward to that new high school that is on its way up. And for those who get opportunity to see some of the renderings, you would be very, very impressed what's coming here. It is going to be outstanding. I see we had a mayor on the phone and we have Councilwoman Alona White. If they want to, if you have anything you want to add to this conversation.
No, Mr. Jolly, I'm just glad that I could be present and I've heard a lot of good information and I really appreciate all that you do. Thank you very much. You and the board.
Mayor Sellers.
Mr. Jolly, just thank you for the updated information. And as always, we look forward to working with you.
Thank you. So with that, we will conclude tonight's meeting. And we will be having more community meetings as it goes. The Eastwood, the last roar of Eastwood, we'll, as soon as we get through the last roar of the middle school, we go to Eastwood and we'll be planning that for, I would say, probably around Labor Day. We try to time it with holidays, so when people come back in town to visit loved ones, they have opportunity to be come back to the school. And that's how we want to do things moving forward. We want to have events where alumni come back. That's one of the things that we really want. We want our alumni from all generations, from the 50s all the way to 2021. We want them back in our community. We want them to be proud of what we do, be proud of our school. We want them to support our scholars. And when we have this new stadium and new basketball thing, we want people there. We want all our alumni there to cheer on the Tigers because, you know, our kids here, just like we were, deserve the best. And I think our alumni have laid that foundation for the young ones to know. And they just need to know the alumni. I think just knowing people who grew up in your community, if it was 50 years ago, 30 years ago, 10 years ago, it means a lot to a person to know somebody lived on their street and now own a business, or somebody lived on their street and live in California and own and is a CEO, and you have that connection. And I think that's what we have to build. So that's our goal, to build those connections back and make them intense and strong and last through generations. So thank you, everyone. We will be advertising our next meetings very soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jolly.
Thank you, Mr. Jolly.